Well, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another round of I do computer repair type jobs because I'd really like to. And today we're going to be replacing the graphics card in my main gaming machine, a Linux box that I've been using for years now, with this AMD graphics card, this Radeon RX 6600. Now, bit of backstory. This machine is currently running on an Nvidia RTX 2060. Now, I've had it on a 2060 for about a year, and at first it was absolutely beautiful. It ran all the games I wanted to play, ran perfectly on it. But one small problem, I'm a Linux user. But with that being said, one big problem has been Nvidia. The 2060, it was working just fine. And what you saw in the video was absolutely how it ran at its peak. It played the games, it worked great, but unfortunately there was a lot of problems. Eventually I had a problem where when I went into Euro Truck Sim, I would get like a good 5 seconds of gameplay before the game crashed. That isn't even enough to get to the title screen. So it's not that great. But I've always heard good things about AMD graphics cards, I mean, they're used in the Steam Deck, which is compatible with everything. And since this machine is basically modeled after a Steam Deck, I think this would be an AMD card would be an excellent fit for it. So yeah. Alright, so with all this preamble out of the way, let's get to installing it. Luckily, that's a simple matter of unplugging everything, sliding the computer forward a bit onto my little working desk, which I just so happen to conveniently have right in front of it, and unscrewing the side panel off. And yeah, so that is half of it done. And then it's just a simple matter of installing the new graphics card, and that just involves unplugging the old one, removing it from its PCI slot, and that's pretty much it. Just unbox the new one, screw it in, install it, maybe get some glamour shots in between doing those things. Anyways, so there we go. Unfortunately though, while I was installing it, I realized that it's been a hot minute since I've actually cleaned it, and because of that, the case was a bit dusty, so I figured that none would be a better time to clean it off. So off camera, I went in and got most of the dust removed. There were still some bits that didn't really want to be removed. Otherwise, I was pretty much ready to get the side panels back on, and it came time to get it back into service for some testing. Now, as for installing drivers, it was actually pretty easy because most of the work had been done for me. On Linux, AMD's graphics drivers actually have a basic version that usually comes part of the Linux kernel. They're absolutely pretty good drivers because they kind of have to be, with the whole Linux kernel being, it needs to be very dependable and reliable and everything in between, so that is needed. And so once I got that working, it was working from the start and working pretty good. So I just had to go to AMD's website just to install the installer app, which is kind of weird, but okay. And the reason why they have you do that is because their installer app will let you choose what you need to run, what you need to get for it. Like, you could select what use case you're doing. Like, if you're going to do predominantly gaming, it'll install packages that are needed for predominantly gaming. It's not really a one-size-fits-all driver, but I think that's kind of the beauty of it. It just makes things work. It makes things fit all in the end of the day. And that's what I really like about it. You can just... It didn't go so good initially because I was looking for dependencies that were really designed for Ubuntu 20.04, or it was actually, I think it was also part of a... it had one of those PPA things just attached for 20.04, which is not very good because I'm using 23.10. And yeah, I'm not too sure what was going on there, but luckily a bit of Googling, a bit of researching, I found out that really it was a simple fix that I had to do later on. So I found a workaround. I was able to install some of the extra libraries to do gaming. There were some that I tried to install that were just that were not really necessary. But yeah, after that, it was just a matter of testing it on gaming. As for how gaming actually went though, a lot of the games are actually pretty stable, and well, when they weren't recording or being recorded, they managed to get up to 165 FPS, which is mostly out of a limitation of the monitor that I use, which it has its refresh rate to 155 Hertz, so it doesn't really go any faster than that. But anyways, so it did have some stuttering in some games, mostly in Euro Truck Sim 2. I've gotten used to it. It usually just is like it starts at 165 and then just kind of bounces like 80 to 90. It's not horrible. I've seen worse. It's for the card that I'm using, it's not bad. And yeah, it isn't completely error-free either. Other than the stuttering, there was on the title screen, I'm popping this up during the edits, there was a issue where the reflections, it's hard to describe, but the reflections were going weird and rainbowy. It's like, you'll see it, it's one of those where you see it and it's like, okay. I'm not too worried about it though, because in reality, once you get past the title screen, you click the drive button, it just goes away, and it's not bad. It's only for something in the beginning. So it's not bad. There was one game that really worked perfectly though, and that was Warframe. Warframe's been a game that I got into, like, that my roommate at my college got me into, like, over the last semester, and I really have grown into loving that game. It is the graphics are pretty good and everything like that, and the graphics are even better on this system. Initially it didn't work very well on the Nvidia card. With the driver issues, it was having similar issues to a lot of the other games where it would work for 5 seconds and then crash, and just inexplicably crash. You know, it would probably fall out of sync or something wrong would happen, and it was just not a pleasant experience. But now that I've got the AMD card on it, it runs the game perfectly. And what's great about it is that that game runs mostly at 165 FPS. There are some quest lines that don't run at 165 FPS. Like I've seen, I forget which one it's called, but it takes up a bit more. It's a bit more graphically intensive. It's usually going at about 5,000 megs of VRAM it takes up. Anyways, so once you get past that, it's actually pretty good. The graphics are pretty nice, and yeah, I crank it up to ultra settings, and it's just beautiful. It doesn't get too far beyond 165 Hertz by the looks of things, because it does dip down a bit easily. But anyways, I'm not too worried about it, because the performance is actually pretty good, and it is actually nice and stable, which is something that I've been longing for quite some time at this point. And yeah. On the other hand, though, there are some games that I was actually surprised didn't work perfectly, and that includes many games that were designed with the Source engine, so basically made by Valve, which is surprising because a lot of the changes that made a lot of this stuff in this video possible were made by Valve. A lot of the Linux compatibility features were made by Valve, but yet some of their games just don't work. Half-Life works perfect, but a lot of the stuff made with their later versions of the Source engine, like Gary's Mod and Aperture Desk Job, which were the two games that I really tested on it, those didn't seem to work. Both of them crashed initially. I did find a workaround, and that was to install the Windows version and just play it under Proton, and they both work perfectly except for Desk Job. Desk Job just decides that it will run, but then once it gets to like loading in things like the next chapter of the story, it will crash, which is okay, I guess, but it's not the greatest, but it'll do. I don't know, it's Aperture Desk Job, it's a tiny game, it'll do. But this isn't really the worst of it, though. Minecraft Java didn't perform as I hoped. It should have performed much better, but I'm not surprised with Mojang's intent on making it more spaghetti code, if anything else. But when I was recording it, it was running at 10 to 20 FPS, and this is what you're seeing here. When not recording, it ran at 30 to 60 FPS, which is a bit of an improvement, but not really the standard that I would like to run up to. I don't consider it good with what this card is. I think that's likely due to the fact that it's just running on CPU rendering alone, and I have to figure out how to fix that. I'll probably update the description with results if I get some time to fix it, but that's kind of not how that, but time is not really that big a thing with me. Anyways, so yeah. But all things considered, I'm really happy with this upgrade. It has its problems, but it seems to be specific to my setup. And when I get time, there's definitely going to be some research, and I'm going to go ahead and fix these problems. But it's a great improvement and in stability, and I'm definitely going to say that my PC is now officially a gaming PC again. And with that being said, that's the end of today's video. If you like what you saw, there's a like button and a subscribe button. This channel is random, but still somehow manages to be organized, and it's just a dumping ground for a lot of the content that fits my interests. I'm attempting to improve my content every week and focus more on quality, so don't be surprised if every week there is a video. For example, recently I've just switched to a more scripted model of making these videos, so hopefully it's been much better. With that being said, that's it for today's video, and bye.